The twin suns of New Earth 9 were high in the sky. The heat made the air shimmer like it was alive. Jax wiped the sweat from his neck and sat on a flat rock near the supply tent. He unwrapped a small foil packet, revealing something golden, crispy, and steaming hot. Roasted chicken leg. He had traded extra batteries for it. Real meat was rare out here. Most people survived on nutrition bars or plant paste. But Jax was a mechanic. He fixed broken alien tech and people paid him well. He took a bite. Juices ran down his chin. It was delicious. But then, he heard it. A sharp gasp, a strange screech, then soft footsteps running across dry soil. He looked up, mouth still full, and froze. There she was, a young alien girl, maybe 10 years old in human age, with smooth lavender skin, bright teal eyes, and silver braids hanging down her back. Her face was frozen in horror. She pointed at him with a trembling finger. "He's eating it," she screamed in her own alien language, but the translator device in Jax's collar picked it up. "He's eating flesh! He will eat us too!" Jax blinked. "Wait, what?" The girl bolted, hiding behind a large tree, still screaming. Her voice echoed through the refugee camp. Within seconds, more alien children peeked out from shelters. Some ran after her. Others just stared wide-eyed at the human with chicken in his hand. Jax raised both arms. "It's just food. Chicken. I'm not—" He stopped mid-sentence. From behind another tent, 2 older alien men stepped out, wearing patchy armor and carrying long metal staffs. Their faces were cold. One spoke in a deep, rumbling voice. "You eat flesh in front of the children?" Jax stood slowly. "It's cooked. It's not— Look, it's just chicken, okay? Earth food." The second man narrowed his eyes. "You eat animals?" Jax hesitated. "Yes, not always. Some humans do, some don't. I didn't think it was a problem." "Here it is," the first man growled. Around them, the camp fell quiet. Even the wind seemed to stop. The alien girl peeked from behind the tree, her eyes filled with terror. Jax swallowed hard, suddenly aware of how small and alone he was. He looked down at the half-eaten leg, then at the frightened eyes all around him. The food that had brought him joy now felt like a weapon. He wrapped it up again carefully and placed it back in his bag. "I didn't mean to scare her," he said softly. "I didn't know." The older aliens didn't answer. One of them turned and led the girl away. The other simply said, "Go." Jax nodded and stepped back slowly, then turned and walked down the hill, away from the camp. That night, he sat alone in his small workshop on the edge of the valley. He stared at the cold chicken. He couldn't bring himself to eat it. His mind kept going back to the girl's terrified face. What had she seen? Why did she think he would eat her? He opened a dusty old screen and searched through alien culture, files. It didn't take long to understand. Linari. That was her name. She came from a peaceful species. On her world, eating another living creature was forbidden, an act of horror. Children were told tales of beasts who ate flesh and became monsters. Her people survived on fruits, roots, and energy crystals. To them, meat eaters were nightmares from legends. Jax leaned back in his chair, guilt twisting in his chest. He hadn't done anything wrong, but he had scared a child. And something about that didn't sit right. He stood, pulled out a clean pack of fruit rations, and placed it beside his bag. Then, without thinking, he picked up a small packet of dried flowers from his supply drawer. In her culture, flowers meant peace. Maybe it was time to say sorry, even if no one asked him to. The morning sun broke through the mist over the alien camp. Cool air hung low, but tension still burned from yesterday. Jack stood at the camp border, not holding meat this time. No chicken, no snacks, just a simple offering in his hands. A pouch of sweet fruits and a small bundle of dried flowers. The flowers were bright blue, glowing faintly under the light. a universal sign of peace among Linari's people. Jax had learned that overnight. He took a slow breath. "All right, no chicken today," he mumbled to himself. "Just peace." He stepped forward. Instantly, heads turned. Alien eyes narrowed. The same tall elder from yesterday raised his staff and stepped between Jax and the camp entrance. "You came back?" the elder asked coldly. "I came to say sorry," Jax said, keeping his voice steady. "I didn't mean harm. I didn't know your ways." The elder said nothing. He just stared at the fruit and the flowers. Finally, he stepped aside, but only slightly. Not a welcome. Just permission to stand. Behind a tent, a small face peeked out. It was her, the alien girl, Linari. Her eyes were less fearful today, but still cautious, like a wild animal unsure if the trap was real. Jax smiled and placed the fruit pouch on the ground slowly. "This is for you," he said, glancing her way. "It's sweet. No meat. Only plants." She didn't move. The elder barked something in their native tongue. Linari flinched but didn't retreat this time. Instead, she walked forward step by tiny step. The camp held its breath. Her small hands reached out. She touched the pouch gently, then sniffed the fruit. Her nose twitched. She looked up at Jax with big glowing eyes and said one thing. "You not eat me?" The question struck Jax like a bullet to the chest. He shook his head quickly. "Never. I'm not a monster," she blinked. "Me told meat eaters eat everything, even young." Jax knelt down. "Not me, not humans. Well, some eat meat but never people, never friends." Linari tilted her head. "You friend? If you want me to be." She stared for a moment, then nodded, once, and then she took a bite of the fruit. The crowd gasped. Jax smiled. But the moment didn't last. A boy from her group, older and angry-looking, stepped forward. "He tricked you," he shouted. "He eats living things. He's a killer." Jax stood up quickly. "Hey!" The boy threw a small rock. It hit Jax's leg. Not hard, but enough to sting. "I didn't come to fight," Jax said, stepping back. "I just wanted her to know the truth." "She's weak if she trusts you," the boy spat, but Linari stepped between them. "No," she said. Her voice was small but clear. "He brought flowers. He didn't lie. He brought fruit, not death." The boy glared at her, then turned, and walked away. Silence filled the space again. The elder stepped forward. "She speaks for herself now," he said to Jax. "You've done something rare, human." Jax raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "You've been feared," the elder said slowly. "But you didn't fear us back." Then the elder turned and walked into the tents. Jax stood there for a moment, not sure if that was a warning or praise. Later that evening, Jax sat outside his repair hut staring at the stars. He had fixed weapons, machines, drones, and ships, but not once had he thought he'd need to fix trust. Yet somehow, that little alien girl had let him try. Behind him, he heard light footsteps. He turned. Linari was there, holding something behind her back. "Hello, human," she said softly. He smiled. "Hey, you okay?" She nodded and stepped forward. She handed him a small hand-woven bracelet made of glowing vines. "For you," she whispered. "So you not forget. You are not eater. You are teacher." Jax took the bracelet carefully and tied it to his wrist. He looked at her and said with a quiet laugh, "You might just be braver than me." She grinned, small, sharp teeth flashing. "Good. Then you won't eat me." And for the first time, they both laughed. The next sunrise was golden and soft. A light breeze rolled across the hills of New Earth 9, carrying the scent of wildflowers and solar dust. But in the refugee camp, tension still lingered like smoke. Jax returned, but this time, not alone. He pulled a hover cart behind him, humming quietly. The cart wasn't filled with weapons, food rations, or tools. No, it was full of ingredients, fruits, grains, vegetables from Earth, colorful spices from nearby trade stations, even a small solar stove. Aliens peeked from their shelters, eyes wide. What was the human doing now? Linari spotted him first. Her small hand gripped the edge of a tent as she crept forward. Her eyes flicked to the food, then to Jax's smile. "Cooking," he said. She frowned. "No. Meat?" "No meat. Promise." He lifted the lid of the stove, poured in oil that shimmered like gold, then tossed in chopped vegetables, crackling, sizzling, filling the air with a smell that made even the shyest aliens take a cautious step closer. Linari's nose twitched, her stomach growled. Jax chuckled. "That's a good sound." The elder approached slowly, arms crossed. "You came to feed us now?" "No," Jax said, stirring the food gently. "I came to teach." He pointed to a second stove. "You have tools, you have hands, I'll show you how to cook it my way, peaceful way." The elder didn't move, but Linari did. She stepped forward, bold as ever, and grabbed a spoon. "Show me." Others gasped, and just like that, the first lesson began. By noon, a small crowd had gathered. Children sat in a circle, passing herbs to each other. A curious mother dropped seeds into a clay pot, copying Jax's gestures. Even the elder sat on a crate, watching in silence. Jax smiled as Linari stirred the pot. "That's good," he said. "Not too fast, let it breathe." "Food breathes?" she asked, confused. "In a way," he laughed. "Let the flavors come alive." Linari nodded like she understood, even if she didn't. When the stew was ready, she dipped a spoon and tasted it first. Everyone waited. Her eyes lit up. "It tastes happy." Laughter broke out, light and cautious. Jax offered spoons to the others. Some hesitated. Some refused. But a few brave hands reached out and took a bite. The expressions were the same: surprise, warmth, joy. No one ran, no one screamed, and no one was eaten. An hour later, Jax sat beside Linari under the shade of a broken solar tower. She licked her fingers, smiling. He handed her a clean cloth. "You cooked most of that," he said. "You might be better than me already." Linari giggled. "I made food and no one feared." She looked thoughtful, then leaned in. "Can I ask you something, Jax?" "Anything. Why do some humans still eat meat?" Jax didn't answer right away. He looked up at the sky, thinking. Some humans come from places where food was hard to find. They learned to survive that way. Others just never changed the habit. "It's not evil, but it's not for everyone." She nodded slowly. "I still don't like it. But you didn't force me to like it." "No," Jax said. "You deserve the choice." That evening, a quiet celebration took place. No fireworks, no music, just the simple act of eating together, aliens and one human. Children passed bowls. Parents smiled softly. Even the angry boy from before watched from a distance, uncertain but not interrupting. Linari stood in the center and raised her spoon high. "This food is not from my world," she said, "but the hands that made it were kind." Jax's heart swelled. For the first time, he hadn't just fixed a machine, he had fixed fear, with vegetables, laughter, and patience. The stars came early on New Earth 9 that night. Linari couldn't sleep. The taste of the Earth stew still lingered on her tongue. It was strange but warm, the kind of food that didn't just fill the belly but made the heart feel full too. She sat outside her tent, hugging her knees, watching the human. Jax was tinkering with a broken alien drone by a dim camplight. He wasn't eating. He wasn't speaking, just quietly working with steady hands. Curious, she got up and tiptoed over. "Do all humans fix things?" she asked softly. Jax looked up and smiled. "Not all, but I do. I like to give broken things a second chance." Linari tilted her head. "Even broken people?" Jax paused. His smile faded a little. Yes, he said. Maybe especially them. She sat beside him on the cold ground. There was silence for a moment, just the faint hum of the drone and the chirps of night creatures. Then she whispered, "Do you want to know why I screamed when I saw you eating chicken?" Jax glanced at her, surprised by her serious tone. "Only if you want to tell me." She looked at the stars, not him. "When I was little, soldiers came to our home. They were not human. They were from a war tribe. They killed our animals. But not quickly. They laughed while cooking them alive." Her voice cracked. "My mother tried to hide me, but I saw it. The fire, the screams, the smell. And I thought, anyone who eats meat must be like them." Jax's heart sank. "Linari, I'm so sorry." She wiped her eyes quickly. "I know now you're different. But the fear, it still lives in me." Jax didn't speak. Instead, he reached into his tool bag and pulled out a small device, a light projector. He activated it, and a tiny image appeared in the air, of Earth, rolling hills, trees, a child's drawing of a farm. "This is where I grew up," Jax said softly. "My family had chickens too. But we raised them with care. We thanked them. It wasn't cruel. Still, I understand why that doesn't help you." Linari stared at the image. "Your world is green. Sometimes," he said. "Sometimes. It's gray and loud, but it's home." She looked at him again. "You're not a monster. And you're not just a scared girl," he replied. "You're brave. You came back when no one else did." Linari hesitated. "I want to understand more. Not just food, I want to understand you." Jax smiled again, but this time it was different. Softer. Real. "I'd like that." The next few days changed everything. Jax became more than just the meat eater. He was the teacher, the fixer, and slowly, a friend. Linari followed him everywhere. She asked questions. She watched him fix hover panels and repair comm links. In return, she taught him how to speak her native tongue, at least the kind words, and every night they shared stories. One evening, Jax taught her how to build a tiny solar lamp using spare parts. When it lit up, glowing purple and gold, she squealed with joy. "It's beautiful," she said. "Just like your people," Jax replied without thinking. She blushed, her lavender skin deepening to a rich violet. "You're strange," she said, "but not bad." Not everyone accepted the friendship. The angry boy named Vec still watched from afar, arms crossed, distrust in his eyes. Others whispered, unsure if the human could really be trusted. But they didn't stop Linari, because she had changed. She stood taller now. She laughed louder, and when younger children were scared, she would tell them, "Not all humans are monsters. I know one who builds light." One night, Jax returned to his hut to find a small package at his door. Inside was a carved stone. On it, alien symbols were etched. He brought it to Linari. "What does it say?" She smiled shyly. "It means, he who feeds the fire of trust." Jax stared at the stone for a long time. Then he placed it above his door. "I think I just found something better than chicken," he said with a grin. Linari laughed, and for the first time in years, she felt safe. It was Linari's idea this time. She tugged gently at Jax's sleeve as he tightened bolts on a broken comm tower outside his hut. "Come," she whispered. "Today I try your world." Jax turned, confused. "My world?" She nodded seriously. "I want to taste what you eat. The food you hid on the first day. The meat." He blinked, stunned. "Are you sure?" Linari looked nervous, but her hands didn't shake. "Fear should not decide for me anymore." Jax sat down slowly. "It's okay if you change your mind." "No," she said. "You respected me. Now let me respect you." By noon, they sat on a flat metal slab near the quiet edge of camp. Jax had prepared carefully, very carefully. No blood, no bones. just a soft piece of grilled chicken, cleaned and seasoned with a light glaze. He'd made a second plate too. Plant-based imitation meat, just in case. Linari stared at both, eyes wide. "It's not alive, right?" she whispered. "No," Jack smiled. "This one never suffered. Grown in a lab, not even born." She picked up the fork, hesitating. Her people never used forks, but she had learned. The bite was small, almost too small to notice. She raised it to her lips, held her breath, and closed her eyes as it touched her tongue. Jax didn't move. The camp seemed to freeze in time. Then, slowly, Linari opened her eyes. Her pupils widened, she blinked, then said in a shocked whisper, "It's soft." Jax chuckled. "That's not what I expected." She took another bite, slightly bigger, then another, and then suddenly, she laughed. A strange, delighted laugh that made two nearby alien children peek around a tent. "It doesn't taste like death," she said. "It tastes like something warm after sadness." Jax nodded slowly. "Food is memory," he said. "Maybe you're building a new one." Linari paused. "I think I want to try again tomorrow, but only if we cook it together." Jax smiled. "Deal." The next day more came. Not to eat, but to watch. Elders stood with arms folded. Children sat cross-legged on the dirt. Even Vec, the angry boy, hovered in the background, arms crossed tightly. Jax and Linari prepared everything in front of them. But this time she gave the lesson. She showed how to season without overpowering the flavor, how to stir gently, how not to rush. When someone asked, "But why try this food?" she answered simply, "Because fear should not be the only thing we taste." When the meal was ready, Linari didn't eat first. She offered the first plate to Vec. He narrowed his eyes. "You think food will change me?" "No," she said calmly. "But I hope it will help you understand me." For a long moment he said nothing. Then, with a deep breath, he took the plate. He sniffed it. He ate, and he didn't spit it out. Instead, he looked at Jax and nodded once. That evening, the campfire was different. No fighting, no distance, just soft voices, laughter, and the smell of a new kind of meal floating in the air. Linari sat beside Jax again, knees pulled close, eyes on the stars. "You know what this means, right?" she said. "What?" "You changed something inside me." Jax looked at her. "No, Linari, you did that. I just made the plate." She looked thoughtful. "I used to dream of monsters when I closed my eyes," she whispered. "Now, I think of kitchens." Jax laughed quietly. "That might be the most human thing you've ever said." And for the first time in her life, Linari felt something she never expected from a flesh-eater: peace. By the seventh sunrise, things had quietly changed. What began with one frightened scream had turned into something rare: curiosity. Now, each morning a small group gathered near Jax's workbench, not for repairs but for recipes. Linari stood beside him like a proud apprentice. She no longer hid behind shadows. Now she led the way, her hands slicing fruit and stirring pots like she had done it all her life. But something new stirred in the air that day. Voices, not whispers, conversations, real ones, between alien and human. Jax handed a bowl of vegetable stew to a tall elder named Krelth. The old alien looked at the food, then at Jax. "This does not smell like meat," he said. "It's not," Jax replied. "Earth has many ways to make food without fear." The elder ate silently. Then, to everyone's surprise, he grunted, "Not bad." Around them, more aliens tried different dishes: crispy flatbread, root mash, and even the plant-based meat Linari had learned to prepare. But it wasn't just food they tasted that day. It was trust. Then came the question. A younger, alien boy raised his hand slowly. "Why do humans eat meat if they don't have to?" The question floated in the air, heavy like smoke. Jax looked at Linari. She nodded gently, giving him space to answer. He stood and faced the small crowd. "Long ago, Earth was harsh," he said. People hunted to survive. There was no choice. Some of that tradition never left. But now we can choose better. Some do, some don't. That's just truth. Krelth narrowed his eyes. But you eat meat. I do, Jack said. But I would never eat a person. Or anything that pleads for life. There was a long silence. Then Linari spoke. Before, I thought all meat eaters were monsters, but I never spoke to one. She turned to her people. We scream at what we don't understand. But when we speak, we begin to heal. That line, we scream, but we must also speak, spread faster than any dish. It was quoted by the elders, written into walls, sung by the children. That evening, Jax was called to the center of the camp. The fire pit burned brightly, and many stood in a circle around him. Krelth stepped forward holding something in both hands, a scroll marked with alien symbols. This is our mark of respect, he said. We only give it to those who change, the way our people think. Jax took it, unsure how to respond. Linari whispered beside him. It means you're family now. He looked around. Dozens of glowing eyes met his, and not one of them looked afraid anymore. Later that night, as stars blinked above them, Jax asked Linari, Do you ever miss your old world? She looked up at the sky. Yes, but not like before. I think I am building a new one now. She held up her hands. One recipe at a time. They laughed. Then she said something quietly, almost like a secret. You are the first human I ever trusted, and the first person who listened before speaking. Jax didn't know what to say, so he just nodded and passed her a bowl. Rain fell gently on New Earth 9 for the first time in months. It wasn't cold, it was warm and soft, like the planet itself was sighing in relief. The camp didn't hide from the water today. Instead, alien children danced under it. The old fire pit had turned to glowing embers and steam rose from every rooftop. Jack stood by the garden he helped plant, rows of alien roots and earth herbs growing together. Beside him, Linari knelt in the soil, brushing water from a sprouting. Plant this one, she said, smells like earth, but grows like our moon root. Jack smiled. It's a hybrid, 2 worlds in one. She looked up at him. Like us. Later that evening, the camp held its first shared meal. Not one cooked by humans or aliens alone, but by both. Tables were made from scrap metal and crates, decorated with glowing flower vines and hand-painted stones. On each table sat a mix of foods, some bright, spicy, and strange. Others warm, rich, and familiar. Everyone sat. No ranks, no guards, no borders. Even Vec, the angry boy, now helped serve stew, carefully carrying bowls without spilling. He didn't smile, but he didn't glare either. Jax took a seat at the end of a long bench. He hadn't planned to speak, but then Krelth stood and raised a single finger. Today is more than food, the elder said. It is proof. Everyone turned to listen. Proof that fear can be taught, but trust can be learned. This human did not demand respect. He earned it, not with strength, not with power, but with something far more rare, patience. He nodded toward Jax. And because of that, we welcome him, not as visitor, but as one of us. The whole camp rose in quiet honor. Jax stood too, stunned. I don't know what to say. Linari stepped forward and whispered, Say what's in your heart. He looked around, at glowing eyes, kind faces, little hands offering food. And then he spoke. I didn't come here to teach anyone, Jax began. I came because your machines were broken. I stayed because I saw something more broken. Something I couldn't fix with tools. He looked down at his hands, fear, walls, silence. He raised his head, but you let me try. He turned toward Linari. You were the first to see me, not as a danger, but as something different. And now I see all of you the same way. He smiled softly. Not enemies, not strangers, not food, but family. That night, after the feast, Jax sat by the fading fire. Linari sat beside him, her feet bare in the grass. "You know," she said sleepily, "I used to dream I was being chased by a meat-eater." "And now?" Jax asked. "Now?" She yawned. "I dream of kitchens, and laughter, and someone saying, 'Pass the salt.'" He chuckled. "You've come a long way, Linari." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "So have you." The stars above twinkled brighter that night, like even the sky was proud. And for the first time, in a place where fear once ruled, there was no screaming. Only peace. Only warmth. Only the quiet truth that echoed through Linari's final whisper before sleep. "You were never a meat-eater to me. You were always a friend."